Oh, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me without the microphone? Yes? Really? Really? Yeah. It's heavy. I prefer to put it down, really. Okay. Well, good afternoon. Well, it's heavy. I prefer to put it down, really. Okay. Well, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for coming. It's lovely for us to be back in Hastings again after so long. Often, the past comes to us through our exposure to stately homes. Comes to us through our exposure to stately homes belonging to the elite. But seldom do we carry away any sense of the everyday, ordinary people's engagement with that past. Who they were, what they did, what buildings they lived in. That they have as much right to be heard as the gentry. So our talk today is an illustration of just that, a domestic history across 4 centuries of one very average house in Hastings, 5 High Street. Researching, we discovered that there was nothing average about this house at all, which we will try to demonstrate in this very brief summary of the history, archaeology, architecture, and people of this remarkable building. We bought the house in 1997 and immediately began stories as the house yielded up its historical legacy to us. Phil's mentioned some of these stories of smugglers, printmakers, criminals, poets, painters, tourism, singers, actors, gardeners and ghosts, and a lesbian diarist. We did a house through time project 2 years before David Shoga ever thought of his team of that. Rarely had such research been carried out in such depth on such an ordinary house. We got close to real people, real names, and got into the minds of extraordinary people, like the now famous pre-Raphaelite poet painters, Dante Gabriel Rossetti and Elizabeth City, in 1854. So we expected to find plenty of information about that. But what we didn't know was about the sheer amount of other documentation that existed about associated with the house, which we found here in the museum, in Hastings Library, and in East Sussex Record Office. For instance, we were given a pile of deeds from by the previous owner, which was a complete run from 1657 to 1997. I mean, that's 340 years. A bit special. It began to dawn on us that we were custodians of somewhere or something that was actually very special. Peter is not only a historian, but also an archaeologist. And well, I should have seen it coming, shouldn't I? He announced one morning, I'm going to dig up the back garden. Not Jenny, do you mind if I be? But I'm going to dig up the back garden. I agreed that it would be, I'm going to dig up the back garden. I agreed that it would be, interesting, but I didn't know at the time what I was letting myself in for. Peter contacted HARG, the local archaeological group, and the next thing I knew, I'd got 8 people for 8 hours a day for 8 weeks, totally destroyed 8 people for 8 hours a day for 8 weeks, totally destroyed my lovely garden, doing a full excavation. But I'll leave Peter to tell you that and how that panned out in his half of the talk. So, next slide, please. We should have had another slide there. I think my hope here is going to be, this is 5 High Street. This is the house that you should be looking at. It's slide 1. My apologies. So you'll see the blue tack up there. You'll see the deeds there. On beats. Tack up there. You'll see the deeds there. On beats. You saw the owners. See, there were quite a few at the time. The house was owned, rented, and visited by many people over 400 years. 1732 to 1742. when he willed it to his daughter Mary, but arranged for his wife Joanna to move in there on his death. Thomas was a very wealthy man, and he owned 8 houses, a farm, a shop, and a fish hammock. He was a merchant of unknown goods and had an 8th share in the cutter. He was a highly respectable jurat, that's town councillor, and he had been mayor. By 1741, Thomas is terminally ill and needed to make a will. From that will, the interests of his wife Joanna and 2 married daughters, Mary Sargent and Jane Gladwin. At this time, the law existed throughout Britain called the law of coverture, that said that when a woman married, everything she owned became the property. Thomas was having none of it, and so he set up in his will so that if his sons-in-law, Stephen Sargent and Ralph Gladwin, disagreed and interfered with him leaving everything to the Willingford, then no one would get anything. Jane was inherited some of the properties and the shop. Joanna would move to 5 High Street from the family home, and Mary would get the rest of the properties. The earnings from the 8th share of the cutter went to Joanna, providing her with a steady income. One little detail that I love from the will is that Thomas left Joanna £10 buy a mourning outfit, that's M-M-U-R-N, outfit, even after his death, M-U-R-N, outfit. Even after his death, he wanted his widow to keep appearances. That's actually about £270 today for an outfit. Thomas died on 13th of March 1742. That's buried in All Saints' Church. Moss's guidebook of 1842 refers to the monuments of Thomas's father John, Thomas himself, and that of his daughter Mary, which were prominently displayed in the abbey as befitted a family of such wealth and respectability. Sadly, they're no longer visible. Thomas made his wealth, and what did he spend it on? Thanks to Peter's digging in the garden, we have some answers to that question, which he will share with you later on. In 1798, the owner of Erie, her husband, Robert Wenham, was a tailor and died suddenly, leaving Mary with 6 children. And yet in about 1799, Mary found the money to rebuild the house. And it is that house that you see today. The present inscription, I'm afraid, is inaccurate and rather misleading. So where had Widow Mary acquired enough money to do a complete rebuild? Once again, we think it was a connection with smuggling, since both the Wenham and Geary families were involved, and we have no proof though. 7 years later, Mary sold the house for £450 to John Knight, who was a builder, carpenter, and speculative entrepreneur. He knew that now was the right time to start buying up property. The reason was the growth of the tourism industry in Britain, owing to the revolutionary and Napoleonic wars with France, preventing people holidaying abroad. Fishing villages, like Hastings, reinvented themselves as tourist resorts for both visitors and invalids. Tourism grew exponentially, creating need for good lodging houses, which brought steady incomes from their rents. John Knight was the first in a series of landlords at Level 5, and having renovated the property, he sold it to Richard Diplock for £600. Richard's aim was to provide a top quality off what John Knight had started. As well as completing the house, Diplock's main contribution was to provide a back garden. There had previously been only a working yard at the back of number 5, so Richard had many cartloads of beautiful soil brought in sections where he could have grown some of the new and exciting plants that the Georgian plant hunters were bringing back from around the globe. Nurseries are springing up everywhere, offering more exotic plants to ordinary people. The hybridization had begun on a large scale. Richard's legacy to us was some beautiful, easy-to-work soil, which helped us to create our new garden nearly 200 years later after Peter had dug it out. And so once again, number 5 reflected a new national trend, that of travel to our newly created coastal resorts, upmarket lodging houses to stay in, and pretty gardens to stroll or sit in. Suddenly for Richard Diplock, he defaulted on his mortgage, and the house was reclaimed. It was a time of boom and bust, and he was one of the under. Peter will show you more of this in his section later, and I do apologise for the quality in the sections. Look, you go. In 1823, George Wooll, a printmaker from Huntingdon, moved into number 5 with the intention of putting himself at the very centre of the booming tourist artist George Rowe to draw over 100 scenes of Hastings, which they then produced together as thousands of lithographic prints, or postcards of the day. Wooll turned number 5 into a repository of arts, a sort of fancy goods shop, from which he page of prints, a map, and 2 guidebooks which he himself had written in the house. It was big business, and George prospered. During 1832, Anne Lister from Shipley Hall in Halifax was visiting based on the TV series of 2021, A Gentleman Jack. If anyone saw it, that's called. Yes, no, not her, who played her. Yes, surrounded. Anne was a prolific diarist, and part of her diary was written in crypt, her secret code, which was broken after her death and revealed her affairs with other women. And today, these diaries are of pivotal historical importance to the LGBTQ community and of national significance. And Anne records visiting 5 High Street 20 times. George Rowe emigrated to St. Louis, Missouri, in 1838, set up a lithography business there, and joined the Mechanics Institute, which met at the courthouse. In 1986, I emigrated to St. Louis and worked at the old courthouse, now a museum. I never helped her. She found this signature, which weirdly enough matches the exact signature on the number 5 house deed from 1823. Now, I've noticed that, strangely enough, not only was it fact wrong, it's just, I don't know what the odds are of that happening, but it's very spooky. Wooll's artist and co-producer of prints was George Rowe, originally from Exeter, my hometown. He eventually went to Chelsea, where he set a repository of arts, produced hundreds of replicates, printed a newspaper, and wrote 2 guidebooks. In the 1850s, he fell on hard time and went to the Australian goldfields, where, instead of finding gold, he became famous for his paintings of the gold diggings, which are highly prized today. His last painting there sold for the equivalent of $77,000, pounds, or in Australian dollars. And an Australian, Shelley Keith, contacted me, having read one of my online articles about George Rowe, to say that she owned 3 of his original drawings, and she's allowed them to be reproduced for the first time, not to do limited vacuum, in my book. So the full story is in there, and the book is all about these repeat details. The full story is in there, and the book is all about these repeat details. 5 High Street has another connection too with Australia. In 1825, a local almond sold 3 packs of luxury playing cards from Diplock. Sold 3 packs of luxury playing cards from Diplock. He sued, and she was sentenced to transportation for slavery. I believe there are still white descendants here in Hastings today. The awful thing is that Anne was described evil, disposed person. But in reality, she was struggling to feed her children. Hundreds suffered like her because the penalties were so large. So, yes. In 1854, Dante Gabriel Rossetti lodged at 5 High Street in sweetheart, Elizabeth City. From then on, the house was written into the stream of pre-Raphaelites and into national and international art history. Rossetti was central to the first avant-garde British art movement, pre-Raphaelite art movement, pre-Raphaelitism. Elizabeth Sidney was his co-worker on many of his early works. He is best remembered for his paintings of powerful women, but he is also for his fine drawings and for writing poetry, both of them for fine drawing and for writing poetry, both of them did at 5 High Street. Drew 5 of the most endearing pictures of Lizzie, who was seated and standing by the bedroom window, which absolutely captured her delicacy. Art critics captured her delicacy. Art critics have said that these are among his best drawings ever. And that is such a wonderful accolade for 5 High Street. The time spent in the house was very much the halcyon days. Only Lisa was on the original plan, but we commissioned a new one to include hers. Not only did she stay longer, but she was also a pre-Raphaelite patron poet. This letter from Gabriel has 5 High Street address at the top. It's black to say that his father just died. There are several others with the address on now in various other archives. While at the house, he wrote the poems Sudden Light and Love's Nocturne, and conceived the imagery for a third called Even Snowfleet that he saw to the Hastings. The couple parted after their stay, but 6 years later, in 1860, Lizzie was very young and returned to Hastings to stay at the Cato Inn. Gabriel was informed and rushed to be at her side, like she did, and they were married on the 23rd of May at St. Clement's Church. The church has a beautiful sanctuary in Emery Taylor. 3 years ago, I had put a portable exhibition there called Rossetti's in Love, which is put up on high and definitely worth a visit if you haven't caught it. Lizzie Sidney was a miller with a flair for art and design. Her crowning glory was her auburn hair, and early on she sat repeating for pre-Raphaelite art. You know her best as Domino's Ophelia. From Gabriel, she learned to develop her artistic talents and write poetry. She was no Christina Rossetti, but at the last her 60 survivor poems have been anthologized. Lizzie was always overshadowed by Gabriel, as previously presented as a sick drug and a female pre-Raphaelite artist of little importance. However, last year's landmark exhibition, The Rossettis, at the Tate Britain, showed some of her paintings in an attempt to re-image her as a strong, creative, independent woman, actually influenced the other pre-Raphaelite artists. Now, not all art historians agree with this repositioning, but it does shine a different light on us, and certainly gives a new perspective from the sickly, feeble character of previous accounts. During her stay with her friends, which are now in the Princeton University Library, well preserved and often quoted in art history. Gabriel's friend, William Allingham, was putting together a book of poems called De Amignani Songs. Allingham asked Gabriel if Lizzie would prepare the sketch for the ballad Clark Saunders, done this painting in 1851, so she was familiar with the subject matter. We know she was making woodcut. While she was at the house, she also worked on sketches for the maid of the local gypsy girl we did for her. And she used one of the sketches in the later painting. While they were at number 5, Gabriel let stories of its host ghosts in the house from the landlady used herself. There was apparently the ghost of old man. Who clanked up the stairs noisily. Heard, but not seen. And there are 2 versions of another ghost story. The first, the body of a woman laid out in the kitchen. And then the second, it was a woman laid out in the kitchen. And then the second, it was the body of a customs officer murdered by smugglers. Now, both haunted the house to the extent that the kitchen became known as the corpse. Take a pick which version you want, but I have to tell you that neither Peter nor I heard or saw anything spooky there. The Lizzie Gabriel story is a very true Victorian melodrama, which I don't have time to go into here, but suffice to say that Lizzie died at the age of 32, stillborn birth of her daughter, and in soon postnatally died. Fortunately for us, the humble lodging house in Hastings provided a backdrop to one of the happier aspects of their young lives, and I believe that their time at 5 High Street are happy memories. Next slide, please. In 1883, the owner and landlady of 5 High Street, Countess Waldegrave, died and willed the house to her cousin, William Tyrrell, in gratitude for services rendered in her estates. She had lived at the Mansion House, the estates I'm referring to, now the Stainless Theatre, converted and opened as a theatre in 1959. William Tyrrell had been with his wife Lucy, daughter Fanny, and son James, returning in Essex. They lived in accommodation in the estate. William took possession in 1870, but decided to rent out the house and enjoy the income. Countess Waldegrave had been a very neglectful landlady, and by this time, the house was so dilapidated it was only worth £250, which had come down from 600 to 400. William made any improvements to the house, but on an OS map of 1873, it shows the garden just before he took it over. It seems that Richard Diplock carefully designed 3 sections that disappeared and had become a single strip. Perhaps the grown vegetable with the improvements when she inherited the house on Lily's death. She continued to rent out the house and use the money to live. William's son James had been a groom at the stable, but when William died, James took over his father's job as coachman. He used him, and I did a double take as I spotted this painting of James and a horse negotiator on the stairwell. The description of it, it seems that the painting was donated by Elsie to James's daughter. And I think it's amazing it's still there. It just was such a lovely connection with 5 High Street. Now, I know who James was. I don't know who negotiated. So if anybody knows, could they please put me out of my misery? Let me know. Number 5 is now entering its 3rd century of existence. Now a big jump to later into the 20th century. The house finally became owned rather than a lodging house or a rental. By a barrister and his wife. And then in the 1950s by an American, strangely enough from St. Louis, called Alexis Taggart. Alexis played in an orchestra in Hastings, and he loved to tell stories of the real Wild West in the Philo pub on that street. His claim to fame was he was a bit park-like and was in a film with Jess Matthews, who became Mrs. Dale in Mrs. Dale's Diary, as you will remember, from 1980 show. And then in 1978, 5 High Street was bought by Marshall Coombs, a lecturer at Hastings College, a singer, Morris dancer, poet, and novelist. Marshall also influenced the revival of the May Day celebration in the 3rd of summer, or the Green Man, or as you know him best here in Hastings, Jack in the Green. And so number 5 became deeply involved, since Marshall offered the back garden as a meeting place beside Lad Jack's yours to gather together banners and bacon. Lad Jack's yours to gather together banners and bacon for the May Day proceedings. Then the work began in earnest of preparing the jack. People stuffing already gathered leaves into a conical chicken wire frame, then adding the yellow, red and blue ribbons to mimic frame, then adding the yellow, red and blue ribbons to mimic Mad Jack's colours, but finally a crown. Marsh always maintained that 5 High Street was made for entertaining, but he was not wrong. Certainly members of his Morris have fond memories of the numbers of people crammed into the living room, beer, conversation and singing on many occasions. This was confirmed by Barry Jones, who was both a chimney sweep in real life, the swoop in the Jack in the Green for summer. He came to clean our chimney when we first served it, but that chap in the life of 5 High Street was closed. Peter and I found ourselves entertaining friends, visitors, authors, actors, historians, archaeologists and art critics, you name it. So much so started a visitors' and you can see in the display case today. Just before we moved in, Marshall gave me a small framed print by George Wooll. He thought I could find out more about the man and his prints. Little did Marshall know that I was to become George Wooll's greatest fan, which has lasted to this day. He moved into 5 High Street in the 11th of December 1997. We eventually began clearing some accumulated stuff from the bottom of the garden. Among other objects, we uncovered a length of squat, a discarded skeleton, Jack in the Green, showing himself to the new owners, sure sign that his spirit is still alive and well at number 5. Now that was a very quick whiz through some of the most interesting characters associated with the house Now I'm going to hand you over to Peter, who will show you how the archaeology connects to these people and to many of the movies.
Can you hear me all right? Yeah. Okay. As an archaeologist, my profession, my work career has mostly been in London, and then I worked on the Mary Rose heavy Yates ship. From 1545 in port. Then the Bronze Age boat, prehistoric boat, 1,000 years old. But I've always had a sort of idea that it'd be wonderful to own a historic house. Evidence of the history of the place from the archaeological point of view to match up with the documentary records. 5 questions with that. And there were various questions that I had. The theme mainly to start living there. The deeds went back to 1657, but the house could well have been occupied for centuries before. So there was no proof in the records that this was where people were living. But when thing to find out was when the house was built, the present house we thought was quite old because there's a lot of old timbers in it. And thanks to David Martin, here, he was an architectural historian and archaeologist, we were able to give advice that the house was built around about 1800-ish. So how did that match up with the deeds, which went back to 1657? The archaeology might help, and certainly the study of the present life would also help. The third thing to find out was when the people were living there, they're rubbish. People were living there, they're rubbish. Analysis of their rubbish would help to tell us something about the life of people. And we might be able to, I hope, match up the objects with some of the named people in the deeds and other records. So it was a bit of a tall order, but wanted to see how it had been panned out. And this, for an ordinary house, very rarely would be done in Britain. So it was a kind of marriage between the historical records and the archaeological records. And it was very revealing indeed. And we had a very nice letter from the then director of the museum in support very much of what we have done. This of what we have done. This incredible archive. How typical it is of ordinary other houses, historic houses, I don't know. We do know it from number 5. Anyway, first of all was to dig down. I got in touch with the Hastings Area Archaeological Research Group. What's odd is Luke Paul here? Yes, of course he's here. He's now in charge of Park. And they did a wonderful job. And I must say that we've had so much support, so many people, volunteers, who volunteered their time and expertise to help us. One of the things was to find out what the land shape was prior to any occupation indeed. It was at the bottom of the Bourne Valley, and one of the things we had support from the Hastings Council, one of their departments, who came in and gave us spot levels of the ordnance data, where in the bottom of the valley of the old town and there was a steep slope, which you can see in the far photograph, down to the Bourne Stream. The Bourne Stream still runs underneath car park and the main road in the bottom of the old town, as it's called, and on one or two occasions, I still lie down in the car park and listen. You can hear the bus running out of the. I didn't know if anyone would have thought I was drunk, but that was I did, and it was quite an intriguing thing to do. When we found the slope down to the stream, at the very bottom of the plants that were growing, when it was wasteland, you can see in the top photograph there, the holes left by the roots of the plants that were growing there, and it filled that with dark earth. We also found its medieval pottery and passing by, because you have to remember that Hastings is something like 1,000 years old, and the High Street, beside which Five High Street is one of the richest roads, and it's 1,000 years old or so. So it's quite understandable that exactly we didn't fight him any, unfortunately, at glaciers, but we did do these bits of pottery that got mixed in with the surface soil. Then we found the rubbish left behind by the first occupants starts around about 1640. So when people started living there, they had the problem of disposing of rubbish. When people started living there, they had the problem of disposing of rubbish. Nowadays, it's wonderful that the lorry comes every week and takes away our rubbish. In the past, they had to dig pits and throw it away. They also had to dig pits, and I hope that we might find cesspits as well. What we did find for this first period, we did find these things. You can see in the middle of the top picture there, one of the pits from the 17th century. In there was a pair of scissors. In Hastings, here, the Conquest Hospital, were marvellous in that we found iron work, like this pair of scissors, where you could hardly see what was inside the corrosion. So they were very kind. Instead of having patients in their trade, these things, they did it for free. That's for time or funds to do it now. But anyway, it happened. When you see an X-ray picture of a pair of scissors, another pottery, and also bits of the first house. Bits of the first house prior to the 1800s. Bits of the lead and glass in the window. And we found bits, another little bit. I suspect the timbers that were reused at the house of 1800, might have been reused from this earlier building. We also found gun flints, and these are some of them. And one of the owners of the house, was the town gunner, Emery Taylor, 1699 to 1726. So there was a match there, and I wonder if he tested out some of the guns in the garden and threw away all of the guns in the garden and threw away or lost some of the flints, making the muskets flow. He went down there, and then we found there's a well in the garden, and Thomas More, on the death of his wife, Joanna More, in 1657, they went and obviously collected the safer things that they wanted from others' property and dumped what they didn't want down a well, and created a huge They're just a problem of how to stick it together. What they seem to have done is had people coming into the first house and collecting up plates and just dumping them en masse. So we found the pieces of the same plate together, broken, full. And so a few of these things are on display upstairs. It really is an extraordinary collection. And it dates from the first half of the 18th century and reflects the things that they collected during their married life, Joanna and Thomas More. Things that they collected during their married life, Joanna and Thomas More. We also found a cesspit. There's the well. There's one of the layers. You can see in the top picture, the right top, the well with one of the layers of broken glass bottle. Well with one of the layers of broken glass bottle in the well. But we also found a cesspit made from an old barrel, which had been put in a pit, earth put around the side of the barrel, and the toilet seat and everything else would be above. We did barrel had corroded away, wood, and we found the round hole occupied it. But in the well, only a few feet away, there were two three chamber pots, and there's one of them of Delft. Far side, there is a picture of a plan from 1750 which shows the ground plan of 5 High Street. How that been interpreted, David Martin is the best person to do that. But anyway, there is the ground plan, and there's the slope to one bottom, and in the middle you can see the well that is cesspit and some rubbish as well. So we were able to build a picture from this of about the Moors who otherwise recorded the deeds and Thomas's will. These are just a few of the plates. The two bluish ones in the middle seem to be Dutch stoneware. Then next door are two plates which commemorate their English elk. They commemorate the union of England and Scotland. See the roses down with this sort of Scotland, the English roses, and the crown with RR, but the other one's got GR, means George GR, means George Rex. I think a mistake was made by the Posso putting RR on. So we found a lot of plates, a lot of things in pairs. So like two plates, same design, you could see in the here. And same design, you could see in the here. Two of those, two of these, two of those, two of these, and so on. So presumably one being used by Thomas and not by Jonah. Anyway, like one lot. There were also a lot of wine early heavily done. And we found also some beer mugs as well. It's a gravy boat, which is very unusual, I think it's fine, and a very nice wine glass. You can see it in there. In her later years, the 1750s, Joanna Moore was feeling not well. You can see it. And one of the ways of treating it was smoking. We found a load of paint pipes, so I suspect that Joanna Moore could have here. We also some very fine tableware, Chinese porcelain, cups, saucers, several teapots, and a silver teaspoon. These are all thrown away. Now the silver service thrown away. Now the silver service, which teaspoon is a bit, is recorded in Thomas More's will. So this was actually almost to be an accidental loss into the well. It's true way what's happening. That's the well. It's true away from some. Thinking that happened very soon, very quickly, straight away. The star piece of the whole collection was this bowl, which was made in Normandy. Now, these are very rare. It even has this one. We found fragments of another one, and one has been found at Ryde, in Martin Cap in Normandy, and there are in this way found. Other than these, the only other, and on display there, Plymouth and Hastings were absolutely European in the smuggling trade. We were in the 1750s, we were at war with France, but smugglers quite happily tea, tobacco, Hastings. And one of the witnesses of Thomas More's will was a man called John Collier. Now, he was in charge of Hastings, basically. He was there several times. He was a very wealthy man, indeed, the solicitor. He was a witness of the will, and he did the betting, the smugglers, because he was in charge of having to put prison. He obviously let them go. And he was in Parliament accused of this. He, of course, denied it. We also found a letter saying that a ship which was wrecked in 1749, the Amsterdam Boulevard, had been plundered by the local people, and this letter from the mayor of Hastings, that person, John Collier, is offering him bottles of wine from the wreck, stolen by the local people, the shelling bottle. There's no doubt that this was very much a sort of centre for smuggling right to the very top. Centre for smuggling right to the very top. And I suspect that all of this we found several teapots, tea was awash with the evidence from teacups and so on from that fight. This shows that smuggled goods were very much in use in the house of Holly Closton. Thomas More, the merchant, and More family were not probably smugglers, but financing it. He owned the farm at Fairlight farm there, and he had in his will various strict rules about cutting down of trees. Strict rules about cutting down of trees on the farm. If they were to be cut down by his daughter, she was to pay what amounts to £600 per tree. To the other daughter, we know, I suspect, there were two possibilities. Either he wanted with keeping the ecology going, or he wanted the trees to be maintained as cover for the smugglers. That's the case. The great of the Amsterdam. One of the bottles, all the bottles were, and we found over 10. There were lots of broken ones. Found over 10. But among them was one bottle which was very old. That's shown in the picture here. And I know the bottles of this shape were being used by the Dutch, and coming from the Amsterdam, right, Boulevard, were being used in the middle of the 18th century by the Dutch. And that may have come from the range of the Amsterdam. And what's come from the range of the Amsterdam. And what is interesting is that people at Bexhill, when George Wooll was in the house in the early 19th century, you would call from a map which he published the range of the Amsterdam here. And the Bexhill and the big silver digging into the wreck at no time, trying to take things from it. Anyway, then the Mary Wenham started building the house. And as far as we can see, she built two front rooms downstairs and upstairs in the 30s of the house. Two downstairs rooms, two front doors, two upstairs rooms. And in one of those rooms, we found wallpaper. It's a 1980 album, as is in the museum. And Richard Diplock seemed to have built extensions to the original house at the back, shown in the drawings there. And at some stage in the 19th century, when Countess Hawkesbury owned it, a cottage was built, Oswald's Garden, formerly the land has sloped down through Bourne Street. Bourne was hidden underground, and that cottage was built facing into the road to the wall. Also, we found the black soil that Richard Diplock brought in, and in it was this mint condition picture of 1807. It fits in the perfectly. That's the black soil in this photograph here, above that line of stream. It's about that thick. So wonderful plants. It really is. I've been into several other gardens in the old town, and nobody else has seen this type of album. The soil in people's gardens is a sandy, clay soil, and very good. This is brilliant. Gardens. We also went and got advice. She was the landlady of 5 High Street when the Rossetti stayed there in 1854. And this we found collapsed in Sage Churchyard. So there's Mary Elford. And this is just another bit of the story, bit of the story of the Rossetti stay here. In 1854, because of the documentation, we were able to reconstruct how the rooms were used. Downstairs, dining room, kitchen, empty hall, dining room, kitchen, empty hall, and Mrs. Elford's parlour, which is now the lounge. And then upstairs, 2 bedrooms at the back, the Roger's parlour on the south side, and Elizabeth Siddle's bedroom on the north side, bedroom on the north side, front. And we also found wallpaper, a contemporary account,
It's the wallpaper that's up there on the street. Healed off the wall.
samples.
There are several other samples now here in the museum. This is the one that Rossetti would have seen.
Okay. So anyway, so there's there is a count what it was like we found. Finding out which was a Dante Gabriel Rossetti did a whole series of pictures of her was a bit of a puzzle, because one of the back rooms being suggested as being where she was. Well, actually, 2 of the pictures show her at a window on the and the same window on the left as the table. There's only one room in the house where you have space for a table on either side of the window, and that has to be the window on the northwest side. So So we were able to reconstruct even where Rossetti was standing. There was just these were in the Swan Museum and the various other National Museum collections. We also found a new garden, probably by Knight or Diplock, and we found the cesspit, the brick line cesspit, beneath, and just north of it, broken up, the original toilet bowl. And it's made by Wedgwood. There's the picture of it. Then he's now going to
what we have to say at this point, at some point, about his
museum.
Rossetti sat here. So this is the actual toilet bowl that he and Lizzie said used in there.
And it's in a Wedgwood pattern book from and it's in a Wedgwood pattern book from 1807 or so. By that time. But there it is. The Wedgwood name is on the stacked on the bottom. And it's in the pieces that had been broken up and thrown away when the toilet was organised later on in the 19th century. We also found in the black soil all sorts of things from the children who were there in the 19th century. It's writing states with the lines saying Marvel and the little dog. So those are those things. That was replaced finally by the tools about 1818. And the jumps down on the seafront. It's the back of the house, and toilet is there. And when we took off my study the walls, we found unpainted the shape of the original 19th century Victorian. We also found other things, bone toothbrush here, and just very few clay pipes. And in the house, we found more wallpaper. So in 1956, the house was modernised. The garden was covered in a lot of concrete, indeed. And this is one of the back rooms upstairs was turned into a bathroom mode as green tiles, a green bath, and the toilet was green and so on. Very typical of the 1950s. Anyway, we got rid of all that and modernised it. Didn't care for that. So that was how the archaeology, very, very briefly, fits in with this. It really has been hugely rewarding to link the archaeology with the documents. Dennis going to finish up with
had there been more time, I would have told you so much more about all the people that Peter's just been talking about, instead of just these few thumbnail sketches. Because they're the ordinary people with interesting lives. And this is a quotation from the director of the Historic House Association. He says, increasingly place a worth on the legacy of ordinary lives. I really cheered when I read that. Ordinary lives from the past matter, not just the elite. From High Street demonstrates one of the best preserved examples of this, because of the documentary research and the archaeological evidence. We now have a fuller picture of who the owners, tenants and owners of the time were, of how they became part of them, and how they left behind traces of themselves for future generations to uncover. We hope that what we've done with number 5 offers a way for you, the public, to connect, engage, and be curious, find out more about those, to engage then be curious, find out more about those ordinary lives. Because if so, cheek dive. Why is it important to remember? Well, I think Mary Beale provides the answer in this quote from the National Trust magazine in 2024. From the National Trust magazine in 2024. She says, if you want to understand the world now, or how things might unfold in the future, you have to understand what and who came before, even if there's no written evidence of the stories. We certainly do that. We would like to thank anyone and everyone who's ever been involved in helped out this project. You're too numerous to mention individually. Please know that we couldn't have done any of it without any of you. Phil is certainly there at the front. Alice Roberts-Pratt and Phil Hammond, who recognised the value of the work, the historical value of it. You've been great. Thanks.
Bud.
How the word history, we became part of the story. We were working on this stuff. Now we've handed it over to Alice and Phil, and they've become part of the story. They're the next chapter. These are just some thumbnail sketches for some of the people. We see Alice down there in the bottom. Things we see Alice down there in the bottom. Things here, not on the left. No, sure, Alexis turned out. And so on. So there's just one last thing. This. No. Oh, yes. Oh, we found it. Yes, it is. Sorry. Yeah. There is one small association with 5 High Street that I want to share with you because it's amazing. 21st of July 2000 was the day that Spike Nogan came to July 2000 was the day that Spike Nogan came to number 5, wearing his carpet slipper. But Spike had been a great supporter of Rita's London excavations, and they'd kept in touch. So we invited him to see what had gone on at number 5. It was not relevant, hence the carpet slippers, but whether you found him hilarious or ridiculous, genius or nitwit, bear in mind that he battled bipolar disorder and still achieved so much. There were many TV programs, radio programs, wrote 50 books. He signed our visitors' book simply, Spotlight Humorist, and the book is on display in the case right now. Lost. The Nest Hotel near us in Tidmouth. His painted on the wall is this: I must go down to the seas again, to the lonely sea sky. All I ask is a tall ship, with star to steer. John Macy, conventional verb. And everything, I'm a qualified because it stops there. No one can think. So that always reminds us of that lovely entry. Excellent. Good.
My favourite quote from Spike Milligan is, I called you on Zill.
Forward.
Thank you so much, Jenny and Peter, for that.
Forward.
Thank you so much, Jenny and Peter, for that wonderful talk. Just before we forget again, Jenny will be selling and signing 2 books.
There are 2.
2. And I suppose my next thing is to ask you if you've got any questions.
metre or so of the world. And whether they were simultaneous or whether split over years, I don't know. But that looks like a recipe that you just.
You're very deceptive, yeah. I found that under same thing in the City of London, the Victorian cellar. Base of the cesspit was above the water level in the well. I never had time to look to see what happened to the people in there. But clearly, there was no knowledge at that time that cesspits of wells. And people, there was an idea that our bodily humans were lots of souls. So you had to do things like bleeding people, horrible things to try and balance it all up. The fact that there are enough drinking water, it's very receptive, yes.
Same thing happened to Burdon Castle.
Sorry?
Well, God's very friend.
Yeah. State of Hartford, who's big in its person. Yeah, it's they just haven't got the idea. Yeah.
I'm intrigued about sort of pottery you found in the wells. Have you got any suggestions why you've done that? Might be better sold. You've done that. Might be better sold.
I know that intrigued us. Why there were lots of poor people in Hastings who would love to have had these plates, but now they're just thrown away.
Probably in a sense. I think it's fashion. Probably in a sense. I think it's fashion.
Yes.
It was actually dead. At the same level.
Yeah, but poor people would have liked it, wouldn't they? Pretty slow,
A bit like casualties now, where people can't get rid of their older relative stuff. People can't get rid of their older relative stuff. So you go factory.
Yeah.
The court has extended it.
One was the front door for the landlady. The front door for the landlady, and went straight into the parlour where the landlady was. The other was used by the visitors, came to stay in like 5 in the 19th century. That second door, the first door, that second door, the first door to the parlour has now become a window. So there was only one front door. But it was really people that in the 19th century and before. In the 19th century and before, society was very stratified, and the Raphaelite didn't have anything to do with servant class. So a landlady who looked after the house, looked after the people, she was really a servant. So visitors coming through her front door, or her going through the visitor's front door, was not really to do. The ornate front of a big mansion, and to this day we still see it.
I'd love to tell you that there is, but I haven't done them in cinema. There's a lot. I wrote the book a long time ago, but I haven't done the family trees. So we thought that some years might like to do that, especially now we've got bond genealogy and filters to do it. So I didn't have it. So I bet there is. It's my feeling about that. I bet there is. So
I couldn't see through when you were doing historical archaeological research, you would open up a whole lot of new questions that you hadn't thought of. And you have to draw a line at some stage and say, right, enough is enough, let's publish what we now know. But that which downloads Jenny books. There was plenty of information in there, starting point for much more research. So going and finding something about the Diplock family, seeing if there is a connection, is such an unusual name. It may well be. And in the same area, so yeah. Yeah. So anyway, it's plenty for people to do. You could do it.
I have a lesbian sensitive historical. I have a lesbian sensitive historical. Also, we have a kind of supermaster driven by Thomas Collins.
Right. Well, if you want to find out home for it, there's the County Record Office or this museum, sure. Or this museum, sure. I'm looking at enjoy more person. If I'm doing right, at one point, inside that, we would have found the foundation of the first house, no doubt about that. But 5 High Street is not very well built. And on either side, there are those that are demolished. 5 High Street might collapse. The walls are of lath and plaster.
You did dig up the floor, take up the floorboards and find earth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
that's probably around the dinner table as a joke.
It would have been a dangerous thing to do. As it is, we had a surveyor came. One of the rooms was one of the bedrooms upstairs. This was civil from. There's a fairly modern floor. Underneath it is floor. Underneath it is the 1800s floor, which has got a great sag in it from the beam underneath held up. And clearly somebody at some stage thought, original thought is no longer able to bear any load at all. So put a new floor in. When we had our engineering, we first of all seen the sagging ceiling below, and when he came into the room, he would then walk around the edges of the room. Because there were, at least that part was supported. It was all, yeah.
And if you walked on one floor, cupboard door, the house became suddenly haunted.
Oh yes, we had. Yes, we.
Haunted.
Oh yes, we had. Yes, we.
No. You will go on forever.
I must just tell you this one. The man came in. Yes, you just mentioned. Matt came in to do this repair work and to a cupboard, and as he thought, and as he was doing this, his father had died a day or two before. The door opened, creaked open. He closed it, went back to what he came. Again, creaking. He was really, this was ghostly. This was always, he didn't realise that one of the floorboards was a bit loose and stepped on it. So at least the door of this cupboard, it was quite smooth. And of course, we do have the old story of the house that nothing to do with us.
I think it's quite appropriate to think of the ghost story. Yes, thank you very much again, Pete and Jenny. And thank you all for coming as well. And thank you all for coming as well. I'll be available to
Can I just say
books.
just a few minutes?
Yes, of course.
I was going to make a speech, not because we went out of time.
To
Can I just
Of course.
just a few?
Yes, of
Just-
course.
I was going to make another speech. I'm not, because we're well out of time. Sorry, David, I'm not good to do it. But I wanted to just tell you two books. One about the Lyceum Gabriel visit. One about it looks as well as it is. And I now go to Paris. By saying thank you so much, David. Thank you so much. Can we give him the if you're a local author and you've got an idea in your head, David's the man to see.
Not all.
And not all at once, then, preferably not. No, my friends Jenny and Mish are going to be behind the book table if anybody should be interested. But thank you all once again for listening.